Good morning, Fox Pack. Welcome back to the Fox Den. Welcome back to the vlog, and welcome to another acid tree. As you all know, we are supercharging the G37, and it's been a long time, needless to say. Well, I just received news that, and hopefully this is all true, next week they are going to be getting the Vortec blowers into their shop, which is what's been holding it up right now, and they are going to be sending me the intercooler bracket kit, and I think at least some of the piping this week, but it should be all of it because they said everything was fabricated, but we'll see. So we are actually going to be getting parts in probably next week, at least that's what we hope. And then we'll be getting the blower and all, hopefully everything else too. So I went ahead and I bought a few things. So first, as per recommended by Soho, we have the HKS Racing Super Fire spark plugs. These are a step colder plug, and they are very good for boost. So Soho has recommended me those. These were not cheap, and I hope I don't have to buy them again anytime soon. We have K&N oil filter as this, like always, because we are going to be doing an oil change, because I went ahead and I bought some Triggaspec coolers. We have the Triggaspec transmission cooler and the Triggaspec engine oil cooler. These things are super nice, and that's what we're going to be installing today. Now, the reason we're going to be doing these coolers is really just to support boost, because everything's going to be running hotter. Now, especially the transmission. We are running the stock transmission, so in order to keep it as reliable as possible, we want to keep it as cool as possible. The transmission does have a stock cooler, but it's really puny. It's really pathetic. So a lot of times what happens is when you run boost with these stock transmissions, they overheat and it damages them. So with this cooler, it will make the transmission much more reliable with boost. I'm not saying it's going to hold up forever. I know it won't, but it will make it last much longer than it probably presently would without it. So we have that, and we have the engine oil cooler, which I've been wanting to do that for a while, and especially with the headers not having any kind of heat shield on them, that engine bay just cooks. So the engine oil cooler will also benefit greatly, and it's just going to make everything more reliable and less prone to breaking, and that's what this is for. So we have these from Triggaspec. You can hit them up on Instagram. I also have his ported upper and lower intake manifolds, and they have been fantastic. We will be running those with the supercharger setup instead of the Soho manifold, because I did get the light kit, and then of course I originally paid for the full kit, but then we put in the injectors, fuel pump, and full tune to offset the cost. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and install these. The install on these is really easy. I just don't really want to put the car on jack stands right now. I'm not looking forward to it. So let me get the car on jack stands, and then we will get started. We're going to do the transmission cooler first, and then if everything goes well, we'll get those spark plugs in today too. If not, we'll do it probably when we remove the intakes. So let's do it. All right, so the car is on jack stands. I didn't film that because I have a method to my madness that you guys don't need to see. Now we're going to get the front bumper off. So we got the under tray off, and I am not putting that thing back on. We're gonna get the Z1 under tray. The thing is just totally knackered. So we got the under tray off. Now let me show you guys what we're after right now. So these are the two lines we are after. These two transmission lines, and these things look sketchy. They're rusty. They're crusty. We're gonna have to be really careful with these. Okay, so the bumper is off, and now we can go ahead and start installing our cooler. I don't like the way those lines look. I guess we'll just see what happens. I'm sure it'll turn into a major disaster, but it took a little longer to get the bumper off today because I removed the whole under tray, and that under tray is totally shot. It's broken in places, it's missing covers. I'm just not even gonna put it back on. You can see there's bolts broken off in it. Not even gonna put it back on. I'm gonna get the Z1 under tray in a little bit. It's not cheap, so I'm gonna hold off on that just for now. But now we can go ahead and get our cooler installed. So we're gonna attempt to do that. So we have the transmission cooler. We're gonna install these fittings and it will be ready for installation. Very simple. All right, so here's how this is going to work. So right here, we have our outlet. So if you look at this particular line here, this is the outlet of your transmission. And luckily this is the more rusty one and we're not gonna have to play with this. This is gonna be staying. This is your return. Now how this works is your outlet comes here and it goes up, way up there to the top of the radiator, and there's a chamber in the radiator right along the side. And it's so small, and that's why the transmissions overheat. And then this line here, you can see, is your return, which goes back into the transmission. So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be replacing this line. And what's gonna happen is we're gonna attach our new line to this, to the bottom of the stock cooler. We're gonna run it out to our Triggaspec cooler, and then that's gonna come back and attach to this. So very, very simple. It's probably gonna be messy, but I do have some trans fluid. I have a bottle, probably should have bought 2 bottles to be honest, just to be safe, but we're gonna go ahead and fill the cooler up with trans fluid before we do this, and then we're gonna attempt to do it. Alright guys, so I'm test fitting the cooler. It fits beautifully right there, but I'm not sure if that's where I'm going to mount it, because at that point it's just sitting directly behind the intercooler. So yeah, I'm not really sure. I was thinking maybe mounting it sideways like that, but I really don't know. But for now I'm just going to get it hooked up. So we have our lines kind of run through. They're not hooked up on the other end. We're going to start by hooking them up to the cooler and then go from there. So I'll see you guys after I do that. Okay, so we have our lines attached to the oil cooler. Now we have to connect them up down here. There you have it, guys. It's in. I mean, that's how it went. Lost a shitload of fluid. I did add some back utilizing these lines. It wasn't easy, but yeah, I didn't film much of that, but we got our lines routed and we have it screwed down. Now what I wanted to do is hold off on the mounting. It just didn't happen because I don't know how else I'm gonna mount this. It's just gonna have to sit behind the intercooler, and that's that. I mean, not much I can do about it, but regardless, it's still going to be way better than the stock cooler. And I did test it. I did spin the wheels a bit up on the jack stands and made sure it shifted properly and all that. And this actually did get warm, so that means it is working. So the transmission cooler is in now. This took like 4 hours, way too long because I was doing other stuff too, but we got to put the engine oil cooler on. And I don't even want to do it right now, but we're going to do it and get it over with while the car's apart. So, all right, so to do our engine oil cooler, we have to drain all the oil out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I won't show you guys that because you know how to do oil probably by this point. So, all right, so here's the sandwich plate. And this piece here just comes out. And we're going to slide this over the oil filter threads. And then this will thread onto that. And then your oil filter will go right here. Really simple install. We're gonna go ahead and Teflon tape these nipples here if I can find some Teflon tape. And this will be installed. I have the oil drained out of the car and the oil filter out, so we are ready for installation of the sandwich plate. So there's where we're installing it. That's where the oil filter would normally go. This might not fit. No, it's not gonna fit. All right, so this was a bit tricky. So there's these 2 lines right here, and they have this bracket on them. You can see right here. And that bracket prevents you from getting this on. So what I did is there's 2 bolts right up here. I went in from the top because they're really hard to get to. Really long extension. Went in from the top and undid the bolts and took the bracket off. And now the sandwich plate is in, so now we can attach our lines and all that good stuff. So I'll do that. Alright, so we have our lines hooked up to the sandwich plate. So now we can put our oil filter on. We have our lines running just under here. Probably shouldn't do it like that, but that's how I'm gonna do it. And then they come out the front. So now we're gonna go fill the oil cooler up with some oil, and then we're gonna see about mounting that. So as always, I'm using Redline ester oil. This is the oil that I like to use in the G. This oil is very expensive, but it will have the best shot at keeping the engine protected and clean and lubricated in very high temperatures. And there it is, guys. The oil cooler is mounted and installed. So this cooler is designed to be on this side of the radiator where the trans cooler is. So these lines are actually quite a bit too long, so it's gonna make it really difficult to put this back on, but we'll see what happens. But for now, that's how it's gonna be. But yeah, we're gonna put oil in the car and fire it up and see if this gets warm. Certainly ought to. And then that'll be it for now. This is just hanging here for now. This is the power steering cooler because broke the bolts, of course, and I'm probably gonna have to move it with the intercooler. We'll see. But anyway, let's get oil in this thing. There you have it, guys. The transmission cooler and the engine oil cooler are installed. It took way longer than it should have taken. Part of it was I was doing a couple other things while I was at it, like removing the the crash bar. I removed the fender liner because we got a route charge pipe through there, and just a couple other handfuls of things. And then I ran into the issue with the bracket. I had to take that off. I ran into the issue with spilling fluid everywhere, so I had to add fluid into it. Hopefully it's the right amount. So if you're gonna do that, make sure you're very careful with that, because made a big mess, and now that's gonna be on the driveway for Kingdom Come. So these coolers definitely do work. This thing, I was running in the car a few minutes, it's actually hot to the touch. I can't even keep my hand on it. And the transmission cooler is just warm because the car wasn't driven or anything. So, but they do work. There's no leaks. And again, if you want these, hit up Triggaspec on Instagram. Great prices, and can't beat it. So now all we need for boost is the spark plugs. I did get those in. They're the HKS Superfire Racing spark plugs as per recommended by Soho. And hopefully starting next week, according to Soho, we will be starting to get parts in. The first thing that's going to be coming in is the intercooler, some charge pipe, and the bracket kit for the blower. And then hopefully not long after, the actual blower itself will come in, and the injectors and fuel pump and all that stuff. So that's it for today, guys. Hopefully that helps you out. It's a really simple, straightforward install. It just takes some time. I mean, like I said, I was doing some stuff in between. If you want to make your life a little easier, take that crash bar off. It gives you a lot more room to work with to mount your cooler. As you probably saw, I did. One thing to note is this cooler is made to be on this side of the car, so the lines ended up being way too long. Hopefully that's not going to be an issue. It shouldn't be, but that's one thing to note. If you do both of them, you're going to have to kind of go one way or the other. I mean, so, but that's my only complaint about this. Everything else was awesome. I did remove the bracket that he included with here, and I just screwed this into here. Like I said, it's made to be over here, but I just removed it and mounted it the same way I mounted that one, which was just with some screws, and it's not going nowhere. So as I said, hopefully next week we'll start getting some supercharger parts in. I hope they're telling the truth with that, and then we can start putting stuff on the car. So really excited. We're so close. And we will also be installing those spark plugs. I'm not going to film that because there's like loads of other videos on YouTube showing how that's done. So we'll probably install those while we're doing the charge pipe, because the intakes will have to be removed to get to the spark plugs, because you got to take the throttle bodies off of the rear spark plugs in the back of the engine. So we'll have to see about that, but we're almost there. The wait is almost over, and just a matter of a couple weeks, maybe 2-3 weeks tops, this thing will be supercharged, and I'm so excited. Don't forget to subscribe, join the Fox Pack today, hit the bell notifications to be notified when we do something stupid. Follow our official page on Instagram at SolarFox Racing Group, and you can follow me on Instagram at SolarFoxG37 so you can see all the behind the scenes of the acid tree. And hit up Triggaspec if you want these oil coolers, and I also have his upper and lower ported intake manifolds, which are also great. Been very happy with it, and great prices as well, while also being great quality. Remember, life's too short to stay stock, and it's only legal if you get caught. Stay foxy.